This is potato galette. This is a really elementary recipe. Everybody should be able to know how to make this properly. You begin with an ordinary potato. It's not too starchy, but not too waxy. You want something that's kind of in between the two states, ideally, as the potato. I'm going to use a mandolin. I'm using this nice one that has a ceramic blade that has presets on the back of it for the thickness. You can use any mandolin. I'm using 1.3 millimeters. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now, one of the most ridiculous things that you see in cookbooks often is that they will now tell you to wash these off, wash them off and dry them. And then in your butter, in your liquid butter, they want you to add cornstarch. This is one of the most unbelievably stupid things in cooking ever. What do you think's on these potatoes to begin with? It's already got starch on it, so why are you going to wash it off and then dry them and then put them in starch? Just use them the way they are. It's fast, it's easy, and it works better. It's actually better than washing them and putting starch on them. We have our potato slices lined up. You want to kind of look at these as you're working with them in case there's any irregularities in the thickness of the cutting. This one's got a thin edge on it. This is going to cause a problem when you're actually cooking it because what will happen is this will start to burn. So we're not going to use that. We're going to make sure that you get ones that are very evenly cut. You're going to dip it in the butter and then begin laying them in the pan. I'm just using a Teflon pan here. In a restaurant we have a large griddle, so you can make a lot of these at one time, but at home you're probably not making more than one or two, so just use a Teflon pan. And this pan is not hot at all, it's just room temperature right now. We're going to get all the potatoes in before we begin heating the pan, and just line them up and begin making the circle. And when you get to the last one in the circle, you just have to lift it up and tuck it underneath. And then you kind of manipulate it around a little bit, try to even out the circle, make sure that the potatoes are all arranged evenly spaced. Now you can stop right here, but if you're making this as a garnish for something, you want to probably have some more height in the middle to kind of make it into a little bowl. So you take a few slices that are half cuts like this and lay them into the middle, and also make sure that when you do this you keep a hole in the center here. Do not plug the hole because steam is going to come up out of there. If you plug the hole, it will cause uneven cooking. And again, you just tuck this underneath to make it even. And I'm leaving that hole there. Now we're going to begin heating it on a medium heat until we begin to see the bubbles in the butter start to form. Okay, we're just starting to see some sizzling here. And I'm going to turn the heat way down to 2 on a scale of 1 to 10. This is on a 2. The biggest mistake you can make on this is to try to cook it in a hurry. You cannot make this crispy and golden and delicious by cranking up the heat and trying to get it done. All you'll get is brown potatoes on the outside. They'll still be completely raw inside. This is the time that the potatoes are getting soft and they're getting closer to the bottom of the pan so that they will make contact with the pan as they wilt. It's been exactly 10 minutes and I'm going to remove this lid now and I'm going to let it cook for another 10 minutes with it on the exact same heat. Now you have to learn to know your own stove and exactly how hot it is. I've worked out on this stove that at a setting of about 2.5 it takes exactly 10 minutes to cook. On yours, you may discover it needs 9 minutes, 11 minutes. Shoot for a setting that makes it take about 10 minutes. And after 10 more minutes, you can see that it is still, there's no actual browning or crisping taking place. That's good. That's what you want. Now we're going to put the lid back on again for another 5 minutes. This is a tedious process, but if you want it to be really good, that's what it takes. Yeah, it's been 5 minutes again. As you can see, a lot of moisture has developed with these potatoes again. There's the timer for the 5 minutes. Now we're going to pull this off. Now this is the point where you're going to have to use some judgment. There's no exact time here, but as you can see, you've got, because it'll vary from potato to potato. These are starting to stick together, but they're not a single sheet yet. And you're going to need to dry these out at a low temperature now, and until they're cohesive, until they're a solid unit, and that maybe take another 5 minutes. You finish the browning too. And this is where technique is going to come into play. You have to kind of feel around, look underneath it. Is it crispy brown? No, it isn't. It's moving together here, but it's certainly the potatoes will move away from each other if you try. So it's not quite ready yet. It needs just a little bit more. You want it to get that crispy golden surface on the bottom, and then it'll stick together as a solid unit. And also, if you're having problems with it, if you see for some reason or another, usually because you didn't use the right kind of potato, it just doesn't want to be one cohesive piece, you can take a pan lid and sit down on top of it and for a minute or so, and this will help firm it up. This will help stick all the pieces together. Don't try to finish it up though with the pan lid, because remember, when the pan's on there, there's no steam escaping. If there's no steam escaping, it's not going to dry out. And it has to be dried out in order to be able to be turned as a single piece. This is getting very close. And finally, when you see browning starting to take place on the top side here and around the center, you can see that this is very, very close. Now, depending on how brave you are, you can either try to lift this up and slide a spatula under this, or you can take a plate and invert it and then turn the whole pan upside down onto the plate. But either way, the point at this point is you need to turn this over. I'm going to slide it back into the pan off of the plate and let it cook for maybe like 1 more minute. It's basically cooked now. We're just crisping up the backside, and it's one solid unit now. Now we can just slide it from here onto a plate. For my cocktail book, Cocktails of the South Pacific and Beyond, Advanced Mixology, available through Amazon online.